Most people don't start with extreme views. They start by following someone they like, and then over time, the line starts to move. So the question isn't just what you believe, it's what you're willing to justify. And I think that's happening more often than people realize, because this isn't really about one person or one side. It's how people shift gradually. Not all at once, but over time. And I think online spaces, and politics especially, speed that process up. And eventually you run into a tension between winning and your principles, between reaching people and keeping boundaries. At some point, it stops being about what works and starts being about what you're becoming. And you can actually see this tension play out in real time. There was a discussion on the Bulwark about whether Democrats should engage with someone like Hassan Piker or draw a line. And the debate was pretty simple. One side argued you have to reach people, you can't just exile voices or ignore audiences. The other side argued there's a real risk in normalizing behavior like that, and that boundaries actually matter. Here's how they framed it.
Do I agree with Hassan Piker's politics? I do not. And I went through some of those disagreements. Should people go on Hassan Piker's show? I think yes. We can talk about that. Should Democrats campaign with him? There are differing views on that. Should there be a litmus test somewhere in the party? Where should the Democrats draw the line in their big tent? Should the tent encompass the entire country? Or, should there be polls that if people fall outside those, they shouldn't fit inside the tent? So those are kind of, I think sometimes the conversation, all that stuff gets jumbled up into one thing. And, my views are different on different sort of sub-bullets.
And on the surface, that sounds like a pretty straightforward strategic debate about how to win. And if you take that argument seriously, a lot of it makes sense. Reaching people matters. If there are large audiences out there and you just ignore them, that's not a moral stance. That's just bad strategy. Politics is also time sensitive. You don't always get to pick the perfect moment or the perfect messenger. Sometimes you just have to show up, even if the space isn't ideal. And none of that is wrong. In fact, if your goal is to win, this is exactly how you think about it. But the argument assumes tactics are just tools, and they're not. Because tactics don't stay isolated. What gets rewarded gets repeated. And over time, tone spreads faster than ideas. Until eventually, the behavior itself becomes normal. You don't just use these tactics, you absorb them. What gets rewarded doesn't stay strategic, it becomes the culture. And this happens slowly enough that you don't always notice it while it's happening. And at a certain point, the line doesn't just move, it disappears. And once that happens, it's very hard to undo. And we've already seen how this plays out. A lot of people now associate with Trump, of course. The tone, the rhetoric, the way people talk, that didn't all start as deeply held belief. A lot of it started as what worked. It didn't start as belief, it started as what worked. And once it worked, it got repeated. And once it got repeated, it became normal. And eventually it became the identity. And to be clear, that doesn't mean you shouldn't engage with people. Engagement is necessary. Talking to people, especially people you disagree with, is not the problem. And having a big tent doesn't mean you draw no lines at all. The problem isn't engagement, it's normalization. because engaging with someone isn't the same as endorsing them. But repeated exposure without pushback starts to look a lot like acceptance. The danger isn't who you talk to, it's what you start to tolerate. And that's the part that's easy to miss. Because a movement isn't just shaped by what it argues for, it's shaped by what it learns to excuse.